My family consists of my mum and dad, Cora and Willie, myself and my sister Sarah, who has Down syndrome. Sarah is 21, so she's about 2.5 years younger than me, and there's just the two of us in the family. Most of the time when I was growing up, I didn't really notice any difference, between having Sarah or having any other sibling. It was just like any kind of normal sibling relationship. We fought, she stole my Barbies, pulled the heads off them constantly. So it was just like, like a normal sibling relationship. Sarah is very healthy. She has a hearing aid. So she has a hearing problem, but that's always been there. So we've kind of grown up with that in our lives. She also has, I'm not sure of the name of it, but basically the flap at the top of her esophagus has a web on it. So it's hard for food to get down. So food sometimes gets stuck in this web and might cause her to kind of choke on her food. So this basically causes her to eat very slowly, has to be really cautious, has to be very careful about what she eats. It's a lot of like soft foods. And that's something that came about when she was a teenager and has kind of gotten progressively worse, but is manageable with having the right foods. But touch wood, she's been very lucky with her health. Sarah went to school in the same place that I did, which was mainstream education. Started off in Ballycane School in Naas for primary school, and then she went on to the convent to finish off her primary school, and then she went to St Mary's College in Naas for secondary. She's actually just finished up this year. So she did her junior cert 3 years ago. We were delighted with that. She did 5 subjects and she passed them all, including an A in foundation maths, so that was great. And then she's just done her leaving cert this year. So we're all thrilled to bits. She's passed. She did maths and accounting. She got a D1 in foundation maths and a B1 in pass accounting. So we were all chuffed to bits for her, and the school, it was really, really great for the school as well.
So there is a myth that children with Down syndrome are not good at maths.
Absolute myth. Sarah has proved it wrong. No, it's great. It's been really great. She had a lot of support from the school. She had a lot of support from my parents as well. They were really good at studying with her because I suppose her personality would be quite kind of like laid back and I'll just watch the TV and it's fine. Whereas my parents kind of had to keep on at her to study and to motivate her. But she did it and she got through it. It was hard work. It was never simple, but I'm really glad she did it. When we went out to celebrate her leaving cert results, and I rang the restaurant and I said, "Oh, is it okay if I bring down a bottle of champagne? My sister's just got her results." And they were like, "Yeah, no problem." And I walked in and handed it over, and something in the back of my mind just said, "I think they think it's me." And I originally went, I just went on the defensive, like, "No, it's Sarah's night." So we sat down and the waitress was like, so you've just done your leaving cert to me? And I was like, "No, Sarah has, like, it's her night, celebrate her." Sarah is starting a PLC course this September. She's starting it in business and IT in Newbridge. So that's great because it can encompass her travel training as well. Hopefully she'll be able to get the bus from Naas to Newbridge. She'll be able to walk down to the centre. So she'll be able to gain some independence, which is really important, as well as keeping her mind stimulated and keeping on learning, which I think is very important. She has the type of personality where if she's left to it, she won't push herself to learn, whereas I think it'll be really good for her to keep gaining skills. And then following on from that, I think my family are all quite keen for her to do some kind of independent living, when the time is right. That she'll be able to go places by herself, that she'll have some independence as well from our family while still having our support. A good group of friends now from school that she's seen a lot this summer, and I hope she makes more friends now when she goes into her PLC course.
What would she do with those friends?
She loves just like meeting up with people for coffee, going for lunch or breakfast, going to the cinema or to play bowling. Like she likes just to do normal, things that any girl would really when they meet up with their friends.
Does she like makeup?
She does to a certain extent. She's very cautious about makeup. She likes it when it's applied properly, but she's not too fond of doing it herself because she's afraid she'll get it wrong and stuff. But yeah, she likes to have a bit of eyeshadow on and a bit of bling.
And fashion?
Oh yes, very, very into fashion. Loves going shopping. My mum and her are currently shopping for her Deb's dress, which is the next important thing in the calendar. So we need to get that right. But yeah, she loves that. She said she was in Penny's the other day and she had this pair of mad leggings on, like loads of patterns and colours. And the assistant was like, "Oh, I love your style." And she was like, "Oh, thanks very much." Like she'd love anything like that. People complimenting her sense of fashion. She's an exceptionally kind person. Um, she'll lend anything to me. You know, she doesn't really have that sibling thing of like, "Give that back," or "It's mine." Or, she's very, very kind-hearted and generous. She will always be asking, like she'll always be asking after people. So she'll be asking after my boyfriend Matt or my friends, or just like keeping in line with everybody and what they're doing. And my friends think she's hilarious because she'll be friends with them on Facebook, or she'll be chatting with them, or she'll comment on their pictures being like, "That's a gorgeous picture." So she loves complimenting people, which is a really nice trait.
And your knowledge of Down syndrome, how did all that come about?
I suppose for a few years, obviously when I was a small child, I didn't really know anything about it. And then I suppose it was probably around the time Sarah had the operation, or maybe just before, that my mum would have explained it to me. I think it was probably around that time that I would go, why are they looking at her funny, or why does she have this, or why doesn't Sarah speak as much as my other friends, siblings who are, at the same age? So I had all those normal questions that every sibling will have. And she just would have explained to me really simply about the extra chromosome and that. And then I suppose as I grew up, my knowledge got more and more just through different things, like through volunteering for Down Syndrome Ireland, or for doing the sibling workshops with other siblings and finding out more about people. But I think I've been really lucky because my mum was involved a lot in the Kildare branch, that I grew up with lots of people with Down syndrome, not just my sibling. So I was used to older, teenagers coming up to me when I was small, or like I'd know what they were like. I'd know people that had slower speech. It was easier for me to understand them. People with different levels of ability. So I grew up quite understanding and I suppose non-judgmental, which is really good. So it wasn't just my sibling that I felt comfortable with. It was a lot of different people too.
Was there ever a time as you were growing up that you felt you might catch Down syndrome?
No, but funny that you say it. That's something Sarah would often bring up. She'd often say things like, "Mom, do I have Down syndrome because I was born here and Evelyn was born in Manchester?" Really, really interesting. And we'd be like, "No, how did you think that?" Or sometimes she'd say, "Will I stop having it when I get to Evelyn's age?" Or things like that, So no, it's not something that I would have thought, but it definitely had occurred to Sarah.
Do you ever look at Sarah and feel guilty that you have opportunities to do things that she may not have? Like having a boyfriend or getting married?
Yeah, I think I do feel guilty sometimes, but more because maybe the thought hasn't crossed her mind. She would be oblivious to that, and she would think that the world is her oyster, which in one way it is, and it's better to think like that. There's nothing stopping her, but obviously the likelihood is less than, like, for me. So yeah, I do think that crossed my mind. Like, definitely when I would have been in Trinity, would have been going to college, and she'd be really interested, or maybe she'd come to my graduation, and I thought, like, oh, maybe she won't get to have a graduation, and maybe we won't get to have that picture on the wall beside mine. So that's a pity. But then again, I think that everybody's life is different. You're gonna have different paths, like not everybody is gonna have the same path that I am. Like even in terms of our brains and stuff, she's obviously maths and accounting, whereas I'm like drama and English and whatever. But even in terms of the future, I suppose sometimes you do find yourself thinking, well, what's gonna happen when mum and dad aren't there? Will this be my responsibility to look after? But then I know that there's a mutual relationship there. So although, I might have a responsibility towards Sarah, I know that I'll be getting a lot from her as well, from her being in my life. Like in anybody who happens to be there with me, like a husband or children or anything, I know that she would enrich their lives.
if there was a pill invented in the morning that took away her Down syndrome?
No, definitely not. There's so much. It'd be a completely different life. I think I'd be a completely different person as well. You know, having Sarah in my life has really enriched it. There's so many, things that I wouldn't have done. I think I'd be a different person. So no, I don't think I would.